Okay. Yeah. Thanks for the intro, Leslie. If there's new people on the call, I'm Kevin Berry. I'm a project manager at NBI, New Buildings Institute. We're a nonprofit. We work in the building code space, and we have a few DOE funded projects to help with resilience codes in a few different regions around the country. So that's one aspect of this project, helping to develop actual code language that can be adopted by I think we're at 12 participating jurisdictions in the collaborative and expanding beyond the collaborative, hopefully. So, yeah, a regional code. Another component is the living implementation guide. And I think that ties into some of the workforce development resources that the city of Tucson is working on in another DOE funded project that's related to this one. So, um, Julia at IES is helping with the living implementation guide, and that will be a website that has a lot of implementation resources. So two different deliverables there, sets of tools and sets of deliverables, I guess. And then on top of the code and the implementation guide, we're also developing a roadmap, and it was originally framed as a net zero roadmap. Like Leslie mentioned, we're thinking about changing that because it really does seem like the priorities of the collaborative and just the nature of resilience, especially in the Southwest, expand beyond net zero and just decarbonization goals, or however you want to frame them. So it's a roadmap to maybe 2050, still thinking about that sort of a timeline, but hopefully with the roadmap we can address a larger set of concerns around resilience and not just some of the I guess energy and efficiency concerns that you see typically in net zero roadmaps. So the idea of a roadmap goes, beyond the code. We're not developing just code language. We're developing in a roadmap a sort of a set of recommendations or strategies to deal with the long-term vision of the collaborative, what long-term change we want to affect through the collaborative, and what a resilient Southwest would look like. And so we'll map out how to get to some of those long-term goals. And yeah, future ready. Was that what I saw in the comment come in from Leslie? I think we got a comment, yeah, in a discussion recently. Someone suggested future ready roadmap, which I like. Okay, so today I don't want to just give you information about the roadmap or the code. I think at this point I was really hoping to get some feedback from the steering committee. And so this is going to be interactive. I am going to be asking some questions of you all. I think at this point with our where we're at in the project, we're developing the roadmap, but we're really trying to identify those goals. So I think typically with a roadmap, you have some maybe a state level piece of legislation that sets out some policy goals that become law and then have to be implemented. I think of like Oregon's HB 3409, which set up a building performance standard for the state. And then there's a DOE funded project that has to figure out how to achieve that goal. Or Illinois, they also have a DOE funded project around there, CEJA. What is that? Climate Equity Justice Act, Climate and Environmental Justice Act, CEGA. In any case, I think what's unique about our collaborative is that we are the goal setters in a way. We're the ones developing where this road is going to take us, what a resilient Southwest really looks like. So the first place that we've turned to sort of gather up a lot of the work that's already been done, because we don't want to reinvent the wheel. We want to build on what's already been done in the region, which has been focusing on resilience around energy and water and natural conservation and all sorts of topics for decades. So first place we've turned is the climate action plans of our 12 participating jurisdictions, or in cases where there is no climate action plan, the comprehensive plan or the general plan, which has a lot of, they typically have a lot of the similar goals embedded in them. Because I think resilience just is a part of planning, especially in the Southwest. So today I wanted to ask you all if there's other places that we should look. So I'm gonna kind of go through the 12 The 12 participating jurisdictions climate action plans or the related documents just pull out a few of the key concepts that I have found. And my big question really is, one, how much of an impact are these policies having on the building departments? I think our steering committee is mostly made up of building officials, climate action plans, typically directed towards sustainability offices or other parts of the city. So we're trying to figure out how effective some of these large policy statements are and how much of an impact they're already having on maybe the priorities that you're seeing in the building department. The second thing, I think we also really just want to know if we're missing anything. If your jurisdiction has a set of priorities that are already shaping the way that building codes are enforced, or that the next code cycle priorities are already being formulated, things like that. So just looking to see what's already out there and what's in place and what's effective kind of in the jurisdictions and where they're at, so we don't reinvent the wheel. Okay, so with that long intro, I think I have these in alphabetical order, I think, and there's 12 of them. I'm not going to read everything that I've put on the slides, but I just want to sort of pull out the content. And I think I'll probably speed up as we go along because there is a little bit of repetition, which is good for us. I think there are a lot of aligned goals across the jurisdictions. So the first one, Albuquerque, I think on the next slide, you can see here. So a lot of text on this slide, but all of these priorities are coming out of the Green Buildings and Development section of the Climate Action Plan. I'll give you a second to sort of just look over this. You can see the level of the goals that we're looking at, the types of commitments that the Climate Action Plan is making. I think we'll see a lot of jurisdictions. So I'll open the floor for not just Albuquerque to respond, but anyone who's on the call. If Albuquerque's not on the line, anyone who sees similar priorities in their jurisdictions. Yeah, Leslie, is your hand up?
Yeah, I was just going to add too. This is based on a relatively quick scan. So if there are policies or goals that your jurisdiction has that impact buildings, built environment that aren't reflected here, or their particular plans outside of climate action plans that you have that would be relevant, please let us know either, during the discussion, in the chat, an email later. Because we're really trying to be comprehensive and holistic, and we recognize not everything that relates to the built environment and the sustainability of the built environment may necessarily be in a climate action plan. So Anthony's got something, and then we do have Veronica with City of Albuquerque.
Great.
Oh, okay. Well, quickly, I was going to mention that a lot of these goals and the descriptions here are also carried out through the general plan of most jurisdictions. And Scottsdale, over the years, a lot of this language, because there was an environmental element, an energy element of the general plan. So a lot of those big, broad policy statements are part of the general plan as well.
That's definitely good to note, and Tucson's the same way too. So that's another good source. Thanks, Anthony.
Yeah, thanks for that.
Veronica, is the Albuquerque Climate Action Plan going to be the primary place for these kinds of like goals or policies? Or like with the Arizona states, do you guys have like general or comprehensive plans where that might be included, or other places?
We have received the CPRG grant, which is the Climate Pollution Reduction Grant, And so with that work with our our CPRG grant manager, Alice Main, she is working to create a comprehensive, through that grant, the goal of the grant is to come up with a comprehensive climate action plan. And that is going to inform an update to our 2021 climate action plan, as well as hopefully come up with something that would inform other jurisdictions that are within the metro statistical area, their climate action plan. So there are going to be updates to this. But since 2021, there have been implementation reports. So we've kind of been able to report progressively how we've been implementing some of these initial strategies and goals that we called out in our 2021 climate action plan.
That's super helpful. And I'm just gonna, Kevin, log things in the chat as they.
And
as
all
they
of
come
those
up.
are on our website as well. So all of those implementation reports, if you go to the cabq.gov/sustainability, you can find the implementation reports that kind of call out like where we've been able to achieve and how we've been able to plug in some of these strategies that we initially wanted to achieve and progressively plug in. So yeah. And then eventually we will hopefully have an update from that CPRG grant, all of the workshops that we did that kind of pulled in a lot of information from the community to update that.
Great. That's really helpful. Do you know how, like, I'm wondering how effective the climate action plans are in pushing some of the larger goals forward? Like I saw on this list, electrification, and I know that can be kind of a contentious issue in some places. Like, do larger goals set at this level end up having an effect in the priorities in the building department? Like, does it actually trickle down to the building department and the way things are
Slowly,
prioritized?
surely there are some larger overarching goals that kind of the mayor in our jurisdiction have wanted to achieve. And so trying to plug in some of these strategies into those major goals has kind of been where we've been able to connect with the building department, code enforcement, creating new ordinances within our municipality. That's kind of where we've kind of utilized this information, and slowly it's fitting into each year what we can achieve and how we can work with the various departments. So I know I'm still very new, so I'm still also very learning a lot of this myself. But yeah, we have been progressively working with our planning and zoning and building departments to plug some of these in, but they tend to focus more on what have been the overarching goals from our administration.
Great. Well, that's all super helpful context here. And yeah, I think maybe just for the sake of time, I'm noticing that we're already 25 minutes in. We'll jump to the next slide. Was it Avondale?
Oh, no, it went straight to Glendale.
Thanks, Veronica.
Yep. Oh,
Welcome.
All right, well, we'll go with Glendale.
I don't know that we have anybody from Glendale today. Looking through, yeah, Joanne normally is who attends for Glendale, and she's on vacation. I remember getting her out of office when I a couple weeks ago, so she's out. So we'll have to reach out to them separately.
Okay, I thought Glendale was interesting too because there is no climate action plan for Glendale. I think there's a different set of priorities, but there's still a lot, I think, in alignment with the collaborative built into it, especially in the housing element sections of the general plan. Envision Glendale, I think it goes out to 2040 for the goals, and the growth areas element also has a lot that's really aligned with the collaborative. I thought that was pretty encouraging. But if there's no one from Glendale on the call, we can go to the next one.
We have, well, before we jump there, since you don't have Avondale and I see Ben's on the call, Ben, I know you're relatively new at Avondale, so you're probably still learning all this too. Are you aware of kind of high level green sustainable policies that the city has in place or goals that the city has in place that impact the work of your department?
Hi, Leslie. No, nothing other than our adopted and amended building codes.
Okay.
Specifically, and then some of our zoning ordinances and whatnot, but I'm not familiar with a green sort of policy or any sort of outline that they have. And I think I don't know if there's anybody else on the line from
Yeah, I see
Avondale here.
Kimberly. Kimberly's there
Yeah.
too.
Hi there. Yeah, so I'll speak on the community sustainability plan, which is our most recent sustainability passed and approved plan. And we do have a section for pathway to efficient buildings and renewable energy. The overarching goal is to achieve 90% renewable energy citywide by 2050. And some of those targets are 80% renewable energy for city operations, 50% reduction of greenhouse gas emissions within city operations. I would say as far as something that relates more heavily is adopt green construction codes for city facilities and new development, as well as increasing percentage of solar for city facilities, homes, and businesses. A lot of this, I'll say from my side of the house, we were really hoping on that EECBG grant that we were expecting to get to do our city buildings and to provide feedback and recommendations to understand where we're at currently as far as weatherization needs and renewable energy integration. So since that has been, as we all know, kind of just FUPOD, it's been a bit static from there.
But perhaps we can talk more, Kimberly, about maybe some of the goals that we're going to go into that maybe should be reflected here, even though, the grant's not going to happen. But we can talk about that kind of offline after the meeting.
Yeah, did Avondale just go through the process of adopting the 2024 building codes?
We're currently in the process of adopting the 2024 building code suite, ICC
Okay.
suite, but we're working on a finalized draft pretty soon. That'll probably occur sometime in August.
Okay. Have you found that like some of the goals embedded in the climate action plan and some of the sub goals underneath that larger goal of what was it, 90% renewable? Are those do they have any weight if you see sort of pushback against some of the code measures in the 2024 codes or some weakening amendments being proposed? Is there any?
We're seeing other jurisdictions that have an outline, let's say that encompasses or goes over the specific IECC requirements for the 2024 code, amend certain things in order to allow pathways for compliance that may or may not prescriptively comply, but they might have, it might be something that more aligns with what that jurisdiction's going for. The 24 IECC has a bunch of different performance pathways, as you know, to get to compliance. So it's I don't know if it's a one size fits all kind of scenario. I think it's almost like that on purpose so that each jurisdiction can have their customers and clients, applicants have different solutions on how to accomplish compliance with the latest and greatest energy code, but while still maintaining, let's say, what that jurisdiction needs on their end for their specific geographical location, their climate zone, et cetera.
Yeah, how much of like I'm wondering how much of those long-term targets that the city has set in the climate action plan are any of those considerations really at the table that you've seen? Does the climate action plan have a seat at the table when you're discussing amendments to the code?
We're getting into the energy code right now, so we've worked through our, the different various I codes as we're getting there. But yeah, at this point in time, I've not seen too much.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just wondering because as we start writing out a climate action plan, or I guess not a climate action plan at all, a roadmap, this future ready roadmap, if there's like a gap between these goals stated at this higher level that you typically see in a roadmap or climate action plan, and then what's happening in every code cycle as the code's being adopted, wondering sort of how effective the climate action plans are. I know that it sounds like they go into the priorities of the general plan, and then those priorities trickle down into the individual departments, like the building department. I'm just wondering if we can maybe somehow help draft a roadmap that has this sort of an appropriate level of the targets being set with like an appropriate level of concreteness, so you can actually sort of draw on them in the next code cycle. So that's where my question is coming from in general for all the jurisdictions in today's meeting.
I think if it dovetailed, Kevin, with the actual language in the code would be the because the code language is unique. Obviously, it's unique to itself, right? Unique to the IECC, and then of course all the different performance pathways that are non-prescriptive, and how does that relate to it? Because if you have 6 or 7 performance pathways, how does the directive from the climate action plan accommodate that? Because if it's, let's say, if it's a more restrictive pathway, it seems that applicants, especially larger scale type applicants, are going to go for the easiest route, right? When they're trying to comply. So that it is interesting to discuss and to think about how that will come into play, or how that could come to play.
Okay, yeah, thanks. That's great. Leslie?
Yeah, I'm just following up on what Ben was saying. We've been thinking about the roadmap in terms of like being outside of the building code, but what this conversation is making me think is that there's an opportunity to use the roadmap to point back to the resilience code and show the alignment between what the resilience code is trying to do and these overarching policies, goals. So we don't have to get into it right now, but I'm just kind of, it's making me think that might be an important element of what we're trying to do here.
Yes, definitely. Great. All right. If there's
Want to move on to Las Cruces?
no more comments, sure. Let's go to Las Cruces.
So we got Molly here. I know Molly's new also relatively, so.
No, that's totally okay. I know for our current focus right now, mainly in our office, we are doing, this is more residential than city building based. We are definitely doing research and looking into how to lower emissions within our own like municipal buildings and city buildings, of course. We're actually doing research right now on different like funding resources we could look into for funding the renovations when it comes to making it more energy efficient buildings. So if anybody has any advice for like funding sources, that would be great. But right now our main project that we're focusing on is residential retrofits for underprivileged members of our community. So we leverage the rebates from the state and are able to go in and retrofit the home. So it includes like light weatherization and installation of heat pump mini splits. So a lot of like electrification of the homes as well. So that is a huge project that we're working on in order to kind of contribute to our climate action plan and to lower emissions within the city. We have about we're still in the very pilot stages of the program. So we have about 10 houses enrolled right now. And we are starting to do energy audits for them, which is the first step in the program. So what we do is we kind of have our energy auditors go in, assess the home, do blower door tests and measurements of the home to see where energy is leaking within a lot of our residential owned homes. Since we kind of are an older community as well, a lot of those homes are built in like the 1930s, 40s, 50s. So they have a lot of outdated insulation techniques and stuff like that. So it definitely contributes to a lot of releasing of energy and higher usage of energy within those homes. So being able to go in and retrofit, weatherize, and electrify the homes and everything has definitely our main goal with that obviously is lowering energy usage for those residents, but also helping them live more comfortable lives within their homes, making them, lower utility bills for them. It is super, super hot down here in Las Cruces right now. We've had 90 to 100-degree weather. So also making it just more comfortable for them. A lot of residential homes and even commercial buildings have swamp coolers down in the desert, which they're okay for heating and cooling. They're not as efficient, unfortunately. They can only only cool to about like 15 to 20 degrees below what it is outside. So if it's 100-degree weather that we've been having for a week straight, it can only cool to about like 80 degrees possibly. And that sometimes is giving it a lot of grace because a lot of these units are older, and so even that is hard for them to maintain. So being able to install heat pump mini splits in these homes would allow the residents to be more comfortable and just a lot more just able to breathe easier being in homes that have actually reliable sources to heat and cool the home. So that is a huge, huge project we're focusing on, but also other aspects of our climate action plan are definitely at the forefront of our focus. So like I said, we are currently researching kind of like sub-energy plans to focus on specifically city-owned municipal buildings and trying to find funding sources for ways that we can retrofit our own city buildings as well to have electrification of them and lower energy usage as well. So that is kind of our main focus right now, and kind of the stuff that I've been working on as a pretty relatively new member of the office. But yeah, definitely if anybody has any questions or anything too, yeah.
Thanks, Molly. And that's before we go on to talk with the next community here. Molly, what you just said, I wanted to point out existing buildings keeps coming up as an important topic here, and we know that there's limited impact you can make through the building code. So that is something that is planned as a component of this roadmap, is really kind of leaning into that existing building piece. So I just wanted to flag that because I know that's come up from numerous jurisdictions as a priority.
Yeah, and we're also actually, I think Kimberly brought this up about the EECBG. We were planning on using that for our residential program as well. So I definitely would love to hear. I know we were just talking we had a staff meeting about, it possibly being taken away because of the bill that had just been passed about unobligated funds. So our office is definitely a little concerned about that. So Kimberly, if you have any more information about kind of what the status is with the EECBG voucher and stuff like that, that would be really great, just because I know we were having a lot of concerns about that as a funding resource for us and our project. So would definitely love to learn more and talk about that if we are able to.
Definitely last I heard was nothing. So,
Perfect. Yeah, that seems to
I
be the
think-
case a lot.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think it just went kind of static there for quite a bit, and I don't know. Yeah, I have not been updated on any development. So,
That is
um,
super real. We've been trying to get into contact with a lot of like members at DOE from that program. Have had a really hard time getting meetings with any of them or getting responses from any of them. We do have a meeting scheduled, I think, next Friday with one of the main people that work on the voucher. So I'm hoping we get some answers then, and I can relay it to the group just in case anybody else also was relying on that funding resource for any projects that they've been working on. But yeah, it's been very kind of up in the air, unfortunately. So yeah, I just wanted to talk about that as well.
Definitely
Yeah,
a lot of
that'd be great.
uncertainty.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, yeah. Keep us
Yep.
posted. Keep the collaborative updated on that if you hear anything. All right, for the sake of time, should we move on to Mesa? Looks like is next.
Yeah. Nina's on. I know Lauren,
Yes.
yep, Lauren's on too.
Mhm.
So we don't have to go into detail. And Lauren, I know you came in a little late. We're looking at existing like goals, policies that your jurisdiction's already adopted that could help inform the direction for the roadmap, setting the goals for the collaborative as a collective. And so Kevin started with the climate action plans. And so this is kind of what he's pulled out at this point that seems to relate to buildings, built environment. But we are also interested in knowing if there's things outside of the climate action plan. Anthony had mentioned, we all have our general plans or comps plans, and there's stuff there as well. Whether, there's other policies, other goals that you have set that could help inform this.
Yes, speaking of, some of these are part of our general plan, and we do have some overarching goals with our building departments when it comes to electrification. For example, they worked on the electrification residential ordinance, so that is one of our overarching goals. And these like install solar. So City of Mesa is working as we speak on installing solar. City of Mesa's downtown area. And water stewardship, we have various water conservation programs throughout the city. And that is all I can think of now when I'm looking at your table.
Yeah,
I think
have these
we'll-
led to any like amendments to the actual building code itself? Any of the building code, any local amendments coming directly out of the climate action plan?
The one that
Lauren?
I'm aware.
that I
Yeah,
know
yeah, go
of.
ahead, Lauren.
No, go ahead, Lena.
The only one that I know, it is electrification for residential properties, but that's all I'm aware of.
Yes. Yeah, I don't have much to add to that. Our aspirational goal of 100% carbon neutrality by 2050, 100% renewable energy by 2050. And we have shorter time frames looking at city operations itself. Lena does a lot of work working with city facilities to track utility usage and trying to reduce that. So we have some programs in place, but when it comes, to the built environment and the code, we haven't made as many changes yet.
Okay, but yeah, I'm correct in understanding that is part of the process, right? We would need to see sort of changes to the building code to address some of these goals in energy, water stewardship. And actually Mesa had one of the interesting goals, mitigating dust. I thought that one was pretty cool through landscaping. I think just another reason to focus on climate adapted landscape standards.
Yeah.
So
Definitely.
anyways, thank you, Lauren and Lena. Okay, Phoenix.
Have any specific codes adopted? ACC standard adoption with some amendments in it. descriptions for on-site, but not building for green infrastructure. Think nothing specific for green building.
Okay, that's good to know. I think, yeah, we're seeing a lot of repeating goals at this point, which is great. I think a lot of line priorities in the region. One thing that I thought was interesting in Phoenix was the embodied carbon calculator. And I don't know if any progress has been made on that. I could see that being implemented and sort of making its way into the the plan review process or the enforcement process. But it seemed like a pretty ambitious goal. Yeah, Anthony?
Yeah, didn't Phoenix recently adopt the 2024 ICOs, including the IECC?
Yeah, that's what I just said.
Oh, okay. When is the effective date?
August 1st.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Yeah, sorry if I wasn't clear on that. But Kevin, I'm not familiar with the carbon calculator. Do you know who's developing that?
No, it didn't say. It's in the climate action plan. Just the goal is to have one developed. I don't even think that there was anyone contracted. I think it was just kind of a long-term goal.
So Kevin, I think, you know, Matt's with the building department there. We don't have anybody from their sustainability program too. So a lot of times, you know, they may be involved more directly in the implementation. So I think we'll want to reach out to them too. But I do want to be mindful of time because Brian and Lisa do want to talk through the community engagement, and we want to make sure folks are aware of what's coming up with that.
Okay.
So I think if those of you who haven't had a chance to chat, if you kind of get a sense of what we're trying to do is figure out where there may be additional goals and policies. Great stuff has gone into the chat, so a lot of ideas here. So just in the interest of time, if you have anything off the top of your head, throw it in the chat. And I think Kevin will send a follow-up because I think giving people a little more time and a little more structured way to respond might be helpful here as well. And I can help you come up with that too. So I'm gonna just say let's move through. You and I could talk about what Tucson's doing outside of this. So that there's Avondale.
Oh, it's out of order. That's funny. I don't know why it's out of order, but yeah, that's fine. I think yeah, there's a lot of common threads through all of them.
We'll send this slide deck out so you guys can see what we've pulled out. And Kevin, I think we can come up with a couple of questions of like, does this capture everything? Are there other plans, other, direction from your mayors or councils or boards that, kind of would guide what is going to happen in the built environment? And we can pose those via email, I think, and continue that discussion in that format. So
that'd be great. Thank you.
So with that, thank you all for really great conversation and really getting the conversation going. And it was helpful because those of you that we didn't get to today, you kind of see where we're wanting to go here. And I'm still continuing to see things coming in the chat. So much appreciated. All right, Brian, Lisa, all yours. We can't hear you, Brian.
All right, can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. All right, let me just pull up a screen real quick. Can you see a presentation?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, good. All right. So yeah, so my name is Brian Manwaring. For folks I haven't yet met, I'm here, as Leslie mentioned, with my colleague Lisa Clark. And we're with Southwest Decision Resources. So we're a small Arizona-based firm that focuses on collaboration, facilitation, mediation, and those kinds of things. I'm in Tucson. Lisa's up in Flagstaff. And we're here, we're not quite on the grants just yet, but we're working with the Nature Conservancy, who's funding our work through this first phase. And yeah, so we just wanted to give a quick update on some events coming up, just to note a couple things in advance, but I'll kind of cruise through these, is that Lisa and I have been working to update the community engagement plan for the Southwest Collaborative. So that's nearing ready to be sent out to review with the core team. This was updated from work that Leslie had done, that Brianne from USDN and others had contributed. So we were just updating that plan. As part of that, we were looking at what engagement looks like in this current budget period. So that brings us to these engagement events that are coming up in the next couple months. So yeah, we want to brief you on those. So there are a total of 3 virtual sessions for you to be aware of. 2 of them will be focused on community engagement, meaning members of the public, stakeholders generally speaking. As I mentioned, 2 virtual engagements. They're both going to be an hour and a half long, and they're placed. We try to strategically put them near each other, one at lunchtime and one just after working hours, so 12 and 2 on September 9th and September 16th. So the intention of these meetings, of these sessions, I should say, are going to be to provide an overview of the project and updates on the project, give folks a sense of the schedule and the process. We anticipate that there will be some folks joining who don't have a strong background and understanding of building codes and what the impact is on their lives. So we do want to provide a building code primer. It will be, focused more on the layperson, so it will not be super technical in its approach. And of course, we want to hear from folks, so there'll be some discovery and discussion. So we want to, this is one opportunity to hear from folks and understand their interests, needs, understanding of the process, see where there's any causes for potential concern, and other thoughts about how this might relate to implementation at the end of the day, and how we could start getting ahead of that and thinking about that as we work with community members. So this is what all I just said looks like in an agenda. And you'll see, and with first names, I didn't realize there would be maybe some new folks on the line today, but that's, just you'll see some names there associated with these items. So it includes Leslie and Clayton from the city of Tucson, Mike Baxley, city of Tempe, and then NBI with Kevin and Tristan, and then Greg and Shay, who work with the Equity Advisory Panel and the Technical Advisory Group, will also be on these calls, or at least a subset of all those folks. Again, you can see the agenda there. So 2 community engagement sessions, and then leading to our 3rd virtual session, our building officials engagement session. So here we're, obviously focused on building officials. We've just pinned down a time. I might call it a strong tentative time, but we'll absolutely confirm it and firm it up here in the next few days. But September 19th at 10:30, another 90-minute session. This one is virtual as well. So the target here is building officials from across the region, focus on Arizona and New Mexico. and all are, from that community are invited. But there might be a special emphasis placed on smaller communities and rural communities to work to get those folks to participate and engage in these sessions, just so some educational opportunities can be pursued. We want to make sure folks are aware of what's going on, and then over time, we hope that this works to start helping build support, understanding, and get a sense of how this work can be further tailored to those communities, and particularly those rural and smaller communities. Of course, we want to hear what those potential hot button issues are, what the concerns are, and start, again, thinking ahead of how that might impact implementation. And similarly, here is a general agenda. So we anticipate this would perhaps be a little more in depth, given that we'll have some knowledgeable folks on the line. So one other just note that sort of a third prong to this engagement. So we have sort of the public, broad stakeholders, and we have building officials. Building industry stakeholders are also being considered, and there's some work being done now to think about and strategize around how to do some of that outreach and for those industry stakeholders. I think there's a broad understanding that that needs to be done mindfully and carefully. So kind of stepping into this with some either one-on-one individual sort of outreach or small group outreach, and kind of working through a progression of perhaps maybe starting with more supportive members of the building industry and branching out from there. So, but that's still in the works, nothing to really report on with specifics there. With respect to the steering committee, and kind of in part why we presented this today, is to make you aware, because we will need some help. So here's the big set of next steps. So we will be looking to finalize that community engagement plan, as I mentioned. And then we're finalizing, confirming, and then setting those dates as final. So that should happen in the next few days. And then we'll work towards the outreach, marketing, and content for those sessions. So we have from today really 2 months to that first session. So we'll begin working on that. The hope is that we'll have outreach materials 6 weeks in advance of that very first session. So July 30th is what we're targeting there. We want to be mindful, and we've heard the concerns about the intersection between the Southwest Collaborative and what's currently either maybe just happened, maybe currently happening, or in the near future happening with local code adoption processes. So we want to be careful with our messaging and how we frame this, so there's people can differentiate, or there's some differentiation between the Southwest Collaborative and those local code adoption processes. So just to let you know, that's in the back of our minds. And then, once we're ready, we'll send out materials, and we're really hoping the steering committee can help, particularly with those public sessions. We have a better, more clear idea of who the focus is with the building officials, but certainly getting word out to local community members, interested groups, and organizations would be very supportive. And we will, we want to commit to getting materials that are easy to distribute. It could be an email, flyer, or other materials, talking points that would be helpful in getting that word out. So let me stop there. I know there's just 5 minutes left. See if there's any quick questions. And Leslie, I don't know if you need, I'm guessing you need a few more minutes here too, so. Let me see.
Just a couple though. And I just want to kind of reiterate Brian's call for, those of you in the jurisdictions, your local stakeholders, who will be most interested in knowing about this work and wanting to hear more, wanting to perhaps be engaged. So we're really relying on you to decide who among your local stakeholders. So, I've got a list of people in the Tucson region that we definitely want to include here. We don't intend to just do a broad sweep of all the organizations we can find in all your jurisdictions. We're really looking for you guys to help us compile that list, or at least, we'll have a registration link that we'll provide to you, forward it out to your groups and your stakeholders as you feel is appropriate. Any questions, any concerns? I mean, this is the first time we are going truly public with this project. So we really wanted to just make sure everyone was clear kind of what the approach was, how we were targeting different audiences before we start doing anything, noticing anybody about these outreach sessions. And if something occurs to you after the meeting, feel free to send me an email. I can pass it along to Brian or Lisa, or you can just email them directly if you have thoughts or have concerns about the approach.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I'm not hearing anything now. So the last thing I wanted to do was just make everyone aware of kind of like the upcoming things, meetings, trainings, whatnot, that is the last of kind of the meeting part of this phase. As Kevin said earlier, we're trying to wrap this up end of September. And so in terms of the steering committee, the next two meetings are going to be pretty exciting. I think, sorry, I have a bug that's flying around me. I don't know what it is. So the August meeting, and Kevin kind of mentioned this earlier, there's these kind of 4 big pieces of things that we're doing. I do not know what this bug is. That we're going to be delivering to Department of Energy as kind of written core deliverables at the end of September. So we really want to make sure that these last 2 meetings in this phase, you have an opportunity to weigh in on the scopes and the frameworks that are being developed before they go to DOE. So the August meeting is the baseline assessment report. And the best way to think about this is, you recall, Loom did surveys and interviews on behalf of the collaborative, talked to folks in building departments to understand kind of what their challenges are around energy code adoption, what their needs are. We've collectively learned a lot, hearing from you all in these meetings, hearing from the TAG and the EAP. And so the baseline assessment report is really intended to synthesize what we've learned. NBI is doing a little bit of look at some of the data that's available around existing building stock as well. So it'll be kind of a little bit of a profile of existing conditions, existing concerns, existing needs. And the intention is it's going to set the direction, or set kind of the why for the Regional Resilience Code, the roadmap, and the Living Implementation Guide, which is the LIG. So we'll cover that in August, and then we'll come back in September. The core team, which are the actual grant subrecipients and the wonderful folks doing all the work on our behalf as jurisdictions, they will see what you're going to see in September and August. And so they'll weigh in. And so what we've decided to do is the September meeting, we're going to keep it just to the jurisdictions because you're the ones who are going to own this. You know, this is being done for you, you know, for each of us as the collaborative founding jurisdictions. And so NBI will be presenting the scope or framework for the Regional Resilience Code, for the roadmap. And then Julia with IES will have the scope of the Living Implementation Guide. So you have a chance to weigh in, see the direction that is going to be proposed to DOE and weigh in on that before it goes to DOE. And then also we are hoping to have confirmed with Pacific Northwest National Laboratory, PNNL, the technical assistance they'll be providing. And so we'll be sharing that with you also at that time. I won't go through the community engagement. Brian just did that very well. I know we're running up against time here, but I do want to flag, we were doing 3 in-person IECC trainings. We're still working on kind of the focus of them. One, and seems like I misspelled Albuquerque, but will be September 17th in Albuquerque. We're working on one in Sedona in September, and then we'll have one October 10th in Mesa. The Albuquerque and the Mesa ones are tied to an ICC Region 11 meeting and the ASBO Fall Institute. So hopefully those dates will work for a lot of you. So, all right, minute over. I apologize. Thank you all for a great discussion today. I'll send these materials out so you can look at them more carefully along with some questions. And really hope to see you in August and September as we wrap up this scoping phase and get those deliverables to DOE. All right. Thanks all.
Thank you.
Thanks, Leslie.
Thanks,
Leslie.
Hard to believe there's only 2 more meetings
Well, in this phase, yeah.
in this budget period. Yeah. Thanks.